Hi Founders fans, Jason here, and today we're going to talk about one of my personal favorite founders, Gouverneur Morris. Now, I believe it's pronounced Gouverneur, I've heard it pronounced Governor, I've also heard it pronounced Gouverneur. So I usually say Gouverneur because that's how I read it 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and that's how it's in my mind. I apologize if that's not correct. Now, for those of you who don't know, Gouverneur Morris was an extraordinarily important person, best known for writing the words in the Constitution, "We the people." So if you've ever heard that phrase, which you have because you clicked on a video that said something about the American Revolution, he's the one who came up with it. He's the one who actually did the final draft of the Constitution, among many things. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. Today we're going to talk about how Gouverneur Morris actually lost his leg. Now, Morris was known for his amorous connections, or how would I say, he liked to be intimate with many ladies. So, the legend of Gouverneur Morris losing his leg was that he was in bed with a woman and her husband came home. And he jumped out of her window, grabbed his clothes, and was running to try and put them on and get into a building somewhere, and he was struck by a carriage, and they had to amputate his leg. Now, as much fun as that story is, it is not the truth. It comes from an Englishman that Morris would later meet while he was in France. It might not be out of character for Morris to have elaborated quite a bit, and he may have told the Englishman. I don't know why he would lie about it. No one, there's nothing indicating this guy was lying, but Morris may well have been. The truth is a little more unfortunate. In 1780, Morris was in Philadelphia. He was representing New York. He is one of the people who would change over. He had signed the Articles of Confederation from New York. He would live in Philadelphia, help Robert Morris, unrelated, fund the Revolution, and then would sign the Constitution as a representative of Pennsylvania. So at this point, even though he's still representing New York in the Continental Congress, he's living in Philadelphia, and he decides to take a respite and go on vacation for a few weeks, and he's getting in a carriage, and it was either when he was climbing into the carriage or just after he got on board that he fell somehow. He was probably climbing on, and the horse started moving, and he fell, and he had his leg caught in the spokes, and it got broken in several places. And he was brought to a doctor. His physician was out of town, and he went to another physician who said, "We need to amputate this." And they did it without anesthesia or anything like that. They just, sorry to be graphic, sawed through the bone and took off his leg from basically the knee down and replaced it with a peg leg. Now, it turns out his doctor got back to town. He said, "Why would you amputate this? There's no need to amputate this." Although, it's hard to know for sure, because how would the doctor know if the leg's already been amputated and such? But that's the true story behind Gouverneur Morris losing his leg. Now, Morris would go on and live a long life. He would end up replacing Jefferson in France as an ambassador to France during the Washington administration. And like I said, he signed the Articles of Confederation. He had written New York State's first Constitution. One of the gentlemen writing New York State's first Constitution. And then, as an added bonus story, so Morris in his diary liked to use the term celebrations, which he would have with the ladies he met. Many times when their husbands were in the other room and with unlocked doors, like, he was really wild about it. It's kind of, the really crazy thing is that he was never killed by any husband. But he did get married later in life, and now this is graphic. If you couldn't handle the sawing through the bone earlier, you might want to stop now. As an older man, he had a blockage in his urethra, and to take care of it, he inserted a sharpened whalebone into his appendage to try and clear it out. We're not entirely sure what it was. Might have been a kidney stone or something of that nature. Although I've heard several things that it could have been, and I am not a doctor, so I can't really say. And it's hard to tell because he just tried to take care of it himself. So he stuck a whalebone up there, and then it got infected, and that's how he died. Granted, he was older. I believe he was in at least his 60s, if not older than that, when he passed away. So sorry to be graphic. Morris was an extraordinary character. He is and was one of a kind. In fact, there's a famous quote of John Jay referring to his leg when he found out that Morris had to have his leg amputated. He said, John Jay famously said, "I wish they took off something else," which they are referencing. Blah blah blah. I should actually pull this out. One of the first books, probably the first book I ever read about an American revolutionary who wasn't one of the main characters, was Gouverneur Morris. In this book, I went through a period, as I've said before, where I got rid of all my dust jackets like an idiot. But I'll put a link to this in the description below. It's called Gentleman Revolutionary, The Rake Who Wrote the Constitution. It's about Gouverneur Morris. It's a pretty short biography by Richard Brookhiser, who is an amazing, amazing author. And it's a light read about a fun character, and I cannot recommend this book enough. So, I'm glad I remembered it was right there after telling the story. So that's it for today, nice and quick. If you have any questions about Gouverneur Morris or any other founder, if you want me to do something about someone you know and you want to learn more about, please let me know. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I will talk to you tomorrow.